Now here's the scenario. You're a young executive like me. Young, you got your coffee, life's going well, and you've decided that now's the right time for you to be buying a bit of executive transportation. You want something nice, you want a badge, but you're smart like me. You don't want to be wasting money frivolously, so you're interested in things like luxury car tax thresholds, fringe benefit tax allowances, all that kind of stuff. So if you understand even half of what I've just said, then this car, the BMW i4 eDrive 35, full electric four-door, swoopy liftback sedan, could possibly be the smartest BMW purchase that you could ever make. Want to know more? Let's jump in. The BMW i4 eDrive 35 is the entry point to BMW's fully electric i4 lineup. It features a 70 kilowatt-hour battery pack and single electric motor. At the rear, this is a proper BMW after all, offering 210 kilowatts and 400 Newton meter output. Range is quoted at 430 kilometers, and it can accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 6 seconds. There's a long list of standard equipment and features, and our car also includes the enhancement pack that adds front seat heating, a powered glass sunroof, and lovely San Remo green metallic paint. The contrasting cognac interior is a no-cost option. The i4 35's biggest calling card, though, is its price. The i4 eDrive 35 is priced from $85,900 before options and on-road costs. That even with the $3,000 option pack, conveniently falls under the Australian luxury car tax threshold, which is, for fuel-efficient vehicles, $89,332. That makes it more affordable than the equivalent BMW 430i Gran Coupe, and even more affordable than the entry-level 330i 3 Series. Now normally this is where we would do the walk around of the car and we'd open all the doors and I'd show you the seats and all that kind of stuff. But given that this is, as I said, the electric version of the four-door version of the two-door version of BMW's four-door sedan, you kind of know what's going on. It is a BMW. So for those who are not familiar, the i4 is the electric version of the BMW 4 Series Gran Coupe. And if you haven't caught up on BMW's naming kind of jiggery-pokery over the last couple of years, the 3 Series sedan became a 4 Series in two-door form. Then they put an extra 2 doors on that to make the 4-door Gran Coupe, which was still a 4 Series despite being a 4-door like a 3 Series. And, then they electrified it and here we are. Very complicated way to look at it, but probably the best summary that I can give you with this car is that until the Neue Klasse vehicle arrives in, a couple of years' time, this is as close as you're going to get to an electric 3 Series. And I think as soon as you put that layer on it, the i4 makes a lot of sense, particularly at this price level. Now, one of the things, I'm not an accountant, let's just make that really, really clear, but one of the things that makes this car particularly appealing is where it's positioned price-wise, because for a start, it's below the luxury car tax threshold, but also because it's electric, it means it has an FBT, fringe benefits tax exemption. If you don't know what that means, I don't blame you. I had to look it up and I still don't really know what it means, but I'm going to give you some back-of-the-napkin maths to try and make it sort of a little bit clearer, because if you can buy one of these on a novated lease, which means you are paying for the car lease with your pre-tax earnings, it makes this almost a no-brainer to do compared to buying a car outright. Now, for some basics here, the luxury car tax was something that was put in by the Australian government to protect our local car industry, and you pay, roughly 30 odd cents on every dollar above a certain value. For electric vehicles, it's around $90,000. So any EV that costs less than that, you don't pay luxury car tax. Any EV that costs more than that, like a Porsche Taycan, you're still paying an LCT component on there. Now, the other one to remember is fringe benefits tax. So if you are given something by your employer that you're not paying tax on, so if you're given something of value prior to your earnings being taxed. Now, I'm kind of struggling here because this is not my forte. Cars, good, finance, bad. But the general position is you have to then pay fringe benefits tax on there. But to encourage people to buy an electric vehicle, you don't have to. So even though having a car through a novated lease is paid for in pre-tax dollars, and that makes it a fringe benefit, if it's an EV, you don't have to pay fringe benefits tax. And to go full back-of-the-napkin kind of round numbers, it basically means you are saving 30% of the price of the car over your period of finance, which makes buying an EV like the i4 through a novated lease, if you've got a corporate plan, this is arguably the smartest BMW purchase that you'll ever make. So what do you get for your money? And this is the thing, this is no kind of wind-up Windows AM radio special. The eDrive 35 is the entry-level model. It does not get fancy M Sport cool stuff, right? I love an M Sport on a BMW. You get the more aggressive styling, you get different suspension, you get bigger wheels, all that kind of thing. You don't get that here, but don't take that as a sort of a way that you don't get anything with this car. It's not kind of that, like it's not as aggressive looking as an M Sport. You can get the i4 40 and then of course the 50 for the all-wheel drive. They do look a little bit more sporty, but this is not a bad looking car to begin with. But everything else, and I guess the way I would like to summarize this is elegant sufficiency. Think of it this way. The best steak to order is a 200 gram i-fillet. Now, you can get a 300 gram if you really want to. You can go full house and have a Chateaubriand to yourself if you really want to, but you don't need anything more than a 200 gram steak. And that's what this car is. It doesn't give you everything, but it gives you enough to make you realize that this is really a sensible car. You've got the massive BMW display here, which is the new BMW OS, which has been improved in its most recent version. I'll touch on that in a second. You've got obviously, 4 power windows. You've got keyless entry through Comfort Access. You've got the My BMW telemetry system, which means when you park this car and you charge it, you can log into it on your phone and do all that sort of stuff. You've got DAB radio. You've got wireless Apple CarPlay. Now we have the one option on this car, which is the premium pack. It gives us the metallic paint, which is this lovely San Remo green. We've got the sunroof and we've got heated seats. And quite frankly, you do need that because A, this color looks amazing. There's a number of colors to choose from, but you do want heated seats, like everybody wants heated seats. The rest of the car though, you've got all the things you need. So for the driver assistance package, you have adaptive cruise control, you have traffic jam queuing, you've got blind spot, you've got lane departure warning, but you don't have driver assistance pro, which is the lane keeping aid. It doesn't keep the wheel in the center of the lane. You've got BMW's very clever reversing assistant that we first saw on the new generation 3 Series, but you don't have automatic parking in this car. So there's a few things that, and arguably, the car can actually do. Let's be really clear. The car has all the technology and all the capability to do lane keeping and automatic parking, but just BMW haven't turned the software on. But I tell you what, if you're using this as an urban runner, you're a real estate agent, you work for one of the big 4 finance companies in the city, you're going from home, you're dropping the kids at school, you're running into the office, you're doing a little bit of running around on weekend. This is an urban executive commuter. You don't really need all of that stuff. And I'm saying that not because it's not good and that it doesn't work, and occasionally if you want to do a country drive, it won't come in handy. I'm saying for the value that this car represents and the positioning that it has, when you consider, now here's a really, really basic way to look at it. The i4 40, it's about 13 grand more expensive than this for list price because you do get more stuff. But it's, I think, $19,000 more expensive drive away because $4,000 of that is pure luxury car tax. So you are burning $4 grand just because that car is over the threshold. And I think, sure, you do get, a cooler look and nicer wheels and a bit more tech, but arguably you can live without a lane keeping aid or automatic parking for the sake of $4,000 that you're just burning and giving to the government for no reason. Because I can tell you what, it was put in to protect our local car industry, of which, well, there isn't one. So it's, arguably a bit of a rort these days, but I dare say the government's never going to get rid of luxury car tax. So it's here to stay. Now, I know this feels a little incongruous for me to be talking about while I'm sitting here in traffic on Beach Road doing 40 kilometres an hour, which I might say is a really easy way to drive the i4. We're averaging less than 20 kilowatt hours per 100. You've got multiple regen capability points on here. There's no paddles, so you can't adjust it yourself. You can go into a setting within the system here to do it. But what you do get out of this car, and I think why I like this one, even being the 35, this has got a 70 kilowatt hour battery, it's about 430k range, it's got over 200 kilowatts. You've got 400 newton meters available. This has got more punch than a 330 or a 430 petrol engine car. And it means that you may be getting the base level electric, but when you need to hustle, this thing just gets up and goes. Like, Poor Tom sitting there in the passenger seat managing the audio. Well, certainly made his breakfast think twice. But what I mean is you've got enough power here, and being a rear drive platform, it does drive like a BMW. It is heavy. Now, let's be really clear. A 4 Series Grand Coupe is heavier than a 3 Series because it's braced to be a pillarless car. So you don't have frames on the windows. It is kind of a 2-door that's been stretched into a 4-door. But this weighs 400 kilograms more than a regular 430i Grand Coupe because of the electric battery. So you do feel that weight. If you are pushing the car and over some bumps, you can feel that weight move around a little bit. It's not negative in that sort of way. This isn't trying to be a sports sedan. It still feels sporty enough, don't get me wrong. But if you really are trying to punt, particularly on some kind of corrugated and sort of scrappy surfaces, the car will feel a little bit heavier than what you'd be used to out of a petrol engine BMW. But that aside, around town, you don't really notice that weight. And certainly to drive, it feels very confident, it feels very planted, and it feels very BMW. And so I'll leave you with this. If you are shopping for an electric vehicle, it may be your first electric vehicle, and you're thinking, I don't know if I'm ready for the change, the pure dollars on this make sense. This is cheaper to buy than the cheapest 3 Series sedan, which is a 330i M Sport. That's the cheapest you can get now. So this i4 eDrive 35 is actually cheaper. If you do it through a novated lease, it's cheaper still. So this whole idea that you can't have electric because it's expensive, if you were shopping, and I know we're talking about BMWs here, don't get me wrong, but if you were shopping for a 3 Series, you're thinking, I want a nice traditional executive badge, I want something that's going to feel like a premium car, but I'm not sure I can spring for electric, well, you can, because this car makes it certainly accessible and affordable, and for the best part of all, it feels like a BMW. A lovely steering wheel, nice balance, nice switchgear, good tech. You don't have to relearn it. You can jump out of any petrol engine BMW and into this and feel at home straight away. And that's what makes the i4 a particularly appealing option in the electric vehicle stakes. Now, before we finish, I will run you through the new BMW OS here. This is a 14.9 touchscreen display, and it's got a nice little bit of a curve to it. As you can see, it's a really, really lovely looking screen. Now, you can interact with the screen obviously by touch, but of course, you've still got the jog wheel down here on the console, which does make life a lot easier, especially if you are driving. You can use this and access a lot of the displays. But what BMW have done, if you recall the previous iteration, you used to scroll kind of endlessly to the right and left and you would lose stuff. Now you've got it here in this sidebar, you can jump up and down. It does make it very easy to use. Obviously you've got navigation, you've got the real-time traffic information, which is part of the My BMW connected capability. You can, obviously if you've never used that, it's brilliant. You can set a navigation waypoint and it will tell you in your phone's diary when it's time to leave based on the current traffic conditions. It's kind of game-changing, to be honest. But you've got a lot of features in here. Now, you can jump here to the menu. You can see there's a lot of apps to choose from. It looks a little bit kind of complicated to go through this way, but you can quickly shortcut and just look at your infotainment apps or just look at the vehicle apps. Now, these are not things you really need to use while on the go. So for example, the displays one, you set up your head-up display, you set up your cluster, you set up your control display. You don't need to touch that again, but it just shows you've got all these kind of things that you can use to configure various elements of the car. If you are interested, CarPlay with Pearl Jam is a really, really nice full screen takeover. So if you are using that, it's wireless. It's a very, very easy setup to have. Generally, very easy to use. But it's worth pointing out that your heating and cooling is all done through the screen. So you can see the two temperature displays here. You can tap there to get your heated seats up, but you do need to use the screen to get there. If you tap on the fan, you go through to the climate control menu. So you've got a bunch of settings and things to do here, probably easier for the passenger to do, but there are no physical controls for that. Now, there are some physical buttons. You've got the volume knob, nice and easy to use, next and back track, obviously your hazard lights, and of course your front and rear demisters are a quick shortcut mode, but they are the only physical buttons here. Everything else is done through the screen. Well, there we go, the BMW i4 eDrive 35, the electric version of the four-door version of the two-door version of BMW's four-door sedan, or as we like to call it, until the Neue Klasse arrives, the electric 3 Series. And it is the BMW that makes the most financial sense that you could buy right now. Now, of course, if you like this clip, hit the bell icon, hit like, hit subscribe, all that kind of stuff. If you have any more questions, hit us up in the comments below or head on over to Drive.com.au. We'll have a full review of this car and, of course, everything else in the BMW range. If you've got any questions about luxury car tax or fringe benefits tax and how that may relate to your car buying journey, well, then you can find out all that information at Drive.com.au as well.